It's a beautiful day for a podcast right here on the My Fandom YouTube channel. Hello, everybody. Dave Sturchio here with another episode of My Fandom Cast, brought to you by the brand new My Fandom app. Be sure to head on over to myfandomapp.com and download the brand new app. It's very, very cool, very unique. Definitely a very cool feature that's not really done anywhere else. I mean, yeah, you can post all your pictures on Instagram and Twitter and um, Facebook and everything like that. But there's no place where you can just get all your sports all in one shot. Instead, head on over to the My Fandom app. It is a brand new app. It's coming to Android soon. Is on. Of course, it's available for iOS and all you smart iPhone people out there, all you Android users. I question why you have an Android in the first place. But hey, listen, I digress. We got a lot to talk about today on the old program. And listen, I usually go on around 11, got a late start, got a late night because, Dallas needs to be on primetime every week, which is nauseating at this point. In my older age of 39 years old, I feel like, can we stop and get away from the primetime games, right? Because it's just like, it's annoying. You don't really want to watch it. I mean, you want to watch your team, but like, you watch football all day long and then you see all these feel good stories, right? And then you're like, oh, okay. My bonus mom Barry says it best, from one, like, if the Cowboys are on at 8, you know, me, my brother, my father, the whole family is just like, we're giddy all day. We're talking fantasy football. We're all excited. And then the mood just gradually starts to fold a little bit. We're like, okay, it's almost Cowboys game time. And then you hear Carrie Underwood start singing and you're like, fuck, here we go. Yeah. So listen, there's a lot to dive into today. Listen, my Fandom Cast was going to cover general sports. It always will, but it's going to really be based around the sports teams that I like or I follow, because I'm not about to sit here and talk to you about somebody's, free throw percentage from the Celtics fucking whoever game. Listen, I'm a Knicks fan. They're off to an okay start, 1-1. Excited about where that team can go with the new pieces. Very cool. The first night, don't get me started, the Celtics just decided not to miss anything, really. So they'll get it together. They're going to be in the top 5, I would say, in the East. So we'll see how that all plays out. But again, it's October. So just like my New York Rangers, I can't really get too excited about that. It's October. They've played like 4 games. And I think they only lost 1. But yeah, I can't get too high, I can't get too low on these sports teams that are going to end in spring of 2025. So I can't really go nuts about that. However, I can go nuts about the Dallas Cowboys, being that I am a Dallas Cowboys diehard. And again, I really hope that everybody that's watching this, either on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, understands where I come from in all of my game day tweets throughout the game. I'll be tweeting live as it's happening. And look, I don't want to, I said it last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever the Trayvon Diggs fiasco happened. I don't want to come across as like this Randy Quaid. And if you don't know the reference, it's the guy from Major League 2, the guy that's just like, all right, doesn't matter, we're going to lose every game. I'm not that guy at all. In fact, some people used to get on me for being too much of a homer, and too much of a positive, like, hey, don't worry about it, it's still early, we got this, we got Dak, don't worry, like, there's a lot of things that have changed over the years, but one thing it remains the same, is that I'm still a Dallas Cowboys diehard. I live and die with this team. Ultimately, they're going to be on the headstone when it's all said and done. Right here lies Dave Sturchio. The Cowboys killed him, because I just ultimately there has been a little bit of a cosmic shift with me, as far as like my fandom, like the plug there. But because again, with Trayvon Diggs doing what he did to me a couple weeks back by just sliding on into my DMs and just giving me a laughing emoji, as if like I read what you said and I'm just laughing at you, and I'm like, oh cool, I don't find it funny, but hey, whatever, and I reply, listen, if he ever comes across and says like, oh, this guy, he apologized after, I'll straight up tell you what I said after. I said, look, man, I love the team, I love you, I love all the guys on the squad, but it's very hard to get behind a team like this where it just seems like we can question effort. I said, I can't do what you do, I can't cover anybody, I can barely cover my kids, right? But like, I would say, and I say barely cover my kids, they'll run circles around me and I won't even have a shot. But I will say, like, I can't do what NFL athletes do. I can't even do what college or high school athletes do at this point of my life. But I can question effort, and I can question scheme, and I can question decision making, and I can question if somebody's going into business for themselves. And that's what I think Trayvon Diggs has done. Now, we'll get into the game. But first and foremost, the headlines from last night are that Mike Leslie, who I do follow, and I believe he follows me back, where he's a good Cowboys writer. I've seen his work. He's, whether it be his videos or his tweets or whatever, I followed his work. And he was out there and he literally did the same thing I did. As far as like, he didn't at Trayvon Diggs. He didn't like call him out like, yo, at Trayvon Diggs, what are you doing? He's looking at a play objectively and he's saying, what is Trayvon Diggs doing on this play? And what Trayvon Diggs did on that play was nothing. And that's a problem. It's not like, oh, he missed his assignment. It's okay. He missed the tackle here. We'll get him next time. No, it's Kittle gets the ball. He's hustling down the field. And there you see parallel, like they're having a foot race together. Trayvon Diggs is doing nothing to cut an angle or anything. And at the very end, he does this half-ass like lunge at the guy just to force him out of bounds at the 2, ultimately to score a touchdown anyway. It's the effort, man. It's the effort. So Mike Leslie went out there and said, what is he doing? So here's my problem. And this is a massive problem with this culture of this team. But I want to even make it on a broader scale and say what's wrong with society today. These kids, and I say kids because, I'm 39, but Trayvon Diggs is super young, right? He's probably in his mid-20s. I don't know off the top of my head. But he's young, right? So he's going to make mistakes around the world of professional sports. I get that part. It's the problem is how these people, these athletes, and even non-athletes, have people just automatically assume that they just can't take any critique, and they cry and they whine and they're wah. It's like, what do you do? Bro, you are in the NFL. You've made it to the highest level, the pinnacle of your professional football career. You are a Dallas Cowboy. Did you not expect at all to hear anything from the fan base? Like, look, I understand that a couple years back, you were Mr. Pick Six. You were Mr. I got 11 interceptions. I'm the best corner in football. And you know what? At that time, you were. I'm not even going to question that because that's the truth. You did your job. You went out there and just ball hawked and were a completely different player. But now the team is reeling. They're 3-4. And all of a sudden, you got guys like Trayvon Diggs coming at reporters for saying like, oh, is that the only thing wrong with that play? All the things wrong with that play? You chose me? Yeah, dude, it's all about you, bro. No, it's about Donovan Wilson. It's about the corners. It's about the linebackers. It's about the safeties. It's about nobody who could cover George Kittle last night on, by the way, National Tight Ends Day, in case you didn't know that. The broadcast said it 50 million times across the league. But like, it's the effort. It's the, what is happening here, right? And then like, look, throughout the course of this game, it gets out of hand quick, as all Cowboys games seem to do nowadays. And, my father's sitting next to me. He's like, it's going to happen, right? And I'm like, what? I mean, this is another laugher on its way. Because I thought at 20, I think it was 27-10, I said, this one's going to get way out of hand. He's like, no. They're going to come back and they're going to tease us again, like they always do in these situations. And, well, here they were, right? They come all the way back. CeeDee Lamb. Listen, I got Dak and CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy team, so I'm just like, all right, if we're going to lose the game, might as well get a couple good things to happen at the end of the game in garbage time. But all of a sudden, it's not garbage time. All of a sudden, they get a couple stops here, and all of a sudden, you got the ball back, and we'll see. But to just, go back to Trayvon Diggs for a second, he's just an immature, weak-minded person. And that's not a knock. I guess it is a knock because, I mean, like, listen, I grew up good, right? I grew up good. It's not like I'm about to say like, oh, I came from a rough neighborhood. No, I grew up good, but I was super bullied as a kid, right? Through middle school and high school, and kids were rough on me. Kids are a little more rough now. They are. I've heard some serious shit. I've worked in education for a couple of years. I know exactly what they're targeting, right? They're like, oh, look at those shoes. And I'm like, I never worried about my fucking shoes when I was a kid. Or, dude, I've heard, like, look at that hairline. I'm like, what? Like, how are kids talking about hairlines? Which mine is impeccable. But I will say, like, this is the kind of shit that you're going to hear. Like, Trayvon, you're going to hear this kind of shit. It is your job and professional responsibility to just tune it out. Just mute it. Right? Including me, including anything that I've said about Trayvon Diggs or anybody. I'm just a fan. I'm a guy covering the team. I'm a guy with a podcast. I ain't nobody. Right? So, like, in the grand scheme of things, like even the DallasCowboys.com writers, even the Blogging the Boys guys, even all the guys that I know within the industry, at the end of the day, we're just doing a job by watching what we see. We're reporting what we see. We're commenting and critiquing what we see. We're not saying like, man, that Trayvon Diggs, what a piece of shit. Like, no. And I've never said a bad thing about anybody, even with my height and pinnacle of my disdain for Jalen Smith, the former linebacker for the Cowboys. I never said anything about the person, right? The guy's probably an all-world person, right? Same thing with Dak Prescott. The reason why I like Dak so much is not because he was second in MVP voting last year. No, it's because the guy's a good dude on and off the field. He's the way you want to bring up your kids in sports. Did Dak Prescott run to Twitter last night? Did he go, I can't believe they said that? Did he come out and tell somebody to question D's nuts? No, Dak wouldn't do that because he's a grown-ass man. He's a grown man. But Trayvon Diggs is so young in his immaturity, he just doesn't know how to separate critique and personal jabs. Nobody is sitting out there saying that Trayvon Diggs is a bad person. Nobody, in fact, Trayvon Diggs and his son are like the coolest father-son duo you've ever seen on social media. Little Aiden Diggs, the guy's he's a boss, bro. The kid's amazing. This is all the shit we love. But like, you're going to sit there and tell me that you can't hack a little heat from reporters? You have 400, 500,000 followers on Twitter and you decided to DM me a couple of weeks ago with a laughing emoji as if like, haha, you know you can't do what I do. No, shit. I can't do what you do, buddy. I can't. I can barely walk up and down the stairs at this point. I'm losing it, right? But when somebody is this immature in the brain, and look, he's got time to grow. He's got time to shape all this up and just shut the fuck up and just never even think about a fan's critique again, right? These guys are in the NFL. There is a microphone, much like this one, stuffed in their face at all times. All times, guys. That's never going to change. As long as you're in the league, they need that shit. They clamor for that shit. They need the clicks and the clips that you hear. Oh, I can't believe you said that. Let's make it go viral, right? Like, you're always going to get that. Always. And Trayvon Diggs needs to realize that. They're like, you know what, dude? What a shit game. You know, made a couple mistakes, made a couple good plays. He tackled for the fucking first time this year, right? And I say that as a fan because I've watched this fucking tape. I've watched the games live and in person. I've watched them on TV. I've watched the all 22 shit. I've watched it all. Trayvon Diggs, Donovan Wilson, guys like that are liabilities sometimes, right? I compared Donovan Wilson last night to Roy Williams. If you're a Cowboys historian, Roy Williams was infamous for being able to lay the wood and crush guys before it wasn't allowed to crush guys, right? Roy Williams was that dude. He was a dog, right? Guy couldn't cover anybody to save his life. Guy took the wrong angle on every single thing, right? And it's like that altering my perception of Roy Williams. So now my altering perception is Trayvon Diggs. Yes, he's a great cornerback and he can jump a route maybe better than anybody else in football, right? But when it comes to tackling, he's subpar. And when it comes to getting involved in a tackle, he don't want it. So that's it. That's the tape. Watch the tape. I'm not saying things out of context. These are things that I'm seeing in real time. I'm not even like, you want to flip it over to Dak? You want to flip it over to Dak for a second? Let's flip it over to Dak for a second. Dak Prescott's my guy. I love Dak Prescott. I think he's a fantastic human being, and I think he is, when he's on, is one of the better quarterbacks in football. His first 7 games this season, he'll be the first one to tell you he stinks or, quote, average, right? Like, he'll tell you that. But, you know, for anybody to say, like, you know, Dak Prescott, you know, he's not trying. I think he is trying. I think he's trying very hard. However, decision-making isn't there, right? It's not there right now. Said, you know, you got Collinsworth, you know, blowing everybody at the point. Look, Dak Prescott said he's working on his feet work and their footwork, and there it is right there. Perfect example. Okay. Footwork, fine, right? You have to work on your footwork. That's oh my God, it's the biggest thing when you come play a quarterback position in the NFL and any level. But I will say, man, it's hard to get behind him right now because of the fact that his mistakes are kind of like head scratchers, right? couple years ago, he was leading the league in picks, and people were like, no way, I can't believe this is him. And then he went out last year and said, hey, I bet you I won't throw those many picks this year. I won't be throwing 10. And he didn't. He had an MVP type year. If it wasn't Lamar Jackson's legs that won him the MVP, Dak Prescott would have been MVP of the NFL last year. That's not a debate. It's not up for debate. It was there. He was second in running. And I thought for sure that it didn't matter that he was going to win this thing. I really did. And when he didn't, I said, well, Lamar does poise a different element of his game that won him the MVP. But now you don't have the same guy right now. You don't have that MVP. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Like, my dad even said last night, we were talking about the game, and he's like, well, what is different about the offense? Is it just the line? Like, he knows the players. He knows what's going on. And I text him about everything. But, like, you let Tyron Smith walk. What is Tyron Smith doing for the Jets right now? Not a whole lot of good, right? Not a whole lot of good. In fact, the Jets offensive line is abysmal right now, right? So you replace him with a guy who has been worked a little bit. Your right tackle, Terrence Steele, he's a turnstile right now. He is getting worked every time. And, when you draw a Bosa, either one of the Bosas, right, it's a tough task. And I'm not asking him to be perfect. But, like, your center, BB has played great football, right? I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of his hustle. He made a play last night that Tyler Biadasz made once upon a time. Like, there's a fumble on the play, but, by the way, there's our center. He's right there, right? And that's hustle. That's trying. Now you will never hear me say that, BB's not trying. He's not trying. Like, he is, right? But then, so that's two pieces. Tony Pollard, they let walk out of town, and they figured the running game's going to be fine. We're going to do fine. And I'm like, well, okay, well, what's your solve? Rico Dowdle. And I'm like, well, he wasn't good enough to win the starting job last year, even with Tony Pollard. He was really not a non-factor. Now this is your guy. Okay, I guess we're going to have to watch and see, right? And don't miss me with the flu bullshit. Like, I'm not a big believer in it. If the guy's sick, but it just was weird on the convenience of the timing of all of it. Like, Rico was like ruled out like an hour before the game. But I will say that that's the only difference. And when you look at the wide receiving core, who'd you lose? Michael Gallup? He wasn't effective at all last year anyway. You would hope that Jalen Tolbert would take that step. And I think he kind of has in a wide receiver 2 role, but he's not respected as a wide receiver 2 in the NFL. When defenses line up, they're not looking at like, oof, we got to get somebody over there on Tolbert. They're not looking at it like that. That's why you need a true 2. There's teams out there in the NFL that are built with three threes, right? They don't really have a 1. They don't even have a 2. Like, but here the Cowboys are with CeeDee Lamb, who had an all-world game last night on the stat sheet because why the fuck not, right? But other than that, now you're involving Turpin a little bit more in the offense, which is a very explosive player. I was never a really big fan of his in the wide receiver game. I said, yeah, man, if he's a burner, put him on kick return. We'll see what happens, right? And sometimes he's making some big catches, but then he also drops one that literally got dropped in the bucket last night to keep the game alive. Why they took 4 shots down the field, I have no fucking idea. But again, that's Mike McCarthy. But like there hasn't been that much turnover to look like world beaters last year on offense to not being able to produce points. You produced points last night because of the fact that, the Niners were off a little bit towards the back end of that game and Dak's padding the stats. And that's a true thing, man. I don't care. You want to come at me with the whole, like, oh no, that's what the 49ers did, bro. They changed their entire defense at the end of the game. They changed the entire fucking thing. Don't tell me nothing. I saw it. Everybody saw it. But what has exactly changed in personnel? Not all that much. So where is that team? Where's the team? Where are them boys, right? Not there. It's weird. And don't get me started about the defense, man. You held the 49ers to 6 points at half, right? And you're like, you know what? Not bad. I mean, yeah, are they down CMC and they down Jennings, right? They were down those guys, but they still had Kittle. They still had Debo. Debo with water on his lungs is still fucking running right now. But like the defense, you look around, you're like, okay, yeah, who's out? Of course, Parsons, Lawrence. We lost Nealon. We lost Sam Williams before the season even started. We have no pressure whatsoever. The pressure came from a guy like DeMario Overshawn last night, who came out and almost murked. I don't know how the hell he held onto the ball, but he crushed Brock Purdy, right? And then you start seeing a little bit of interior help, right? But the one thing that really bothered me was, like, when they introduced the defenses and they're going through the list and the PFF, which again, Pro Football Focus, you want to take their rankings to heart, go for it. I don't. But when I saw that Mozzie Smith was literally the last defensive tackle ranked out of whatever, I think it was like 116, right? He is 116 of 116. I'm like, damn, it literally doesn't get any worse, right? It's like he's the worst tackle in football. But yeah, I mean, as far as the turnover, the defense last year was causing turnovers. Bland with the pick sixes. He's been out all year. Like, is that a bigger thing that what people talking about? Look, Dak Prescott and everybody like that in the Cowboys locker room, they're going to say, listen, don't jump off just yet. Don't fall off the wagon. We're not done yet. But I'm here to tell you that at 3-4, you're running out of time. And the problem is everybody ahead of you is better than you. And it's not even like, it's not a record thing. It is a better squad than you. The Washington Commanders win an improbable game last night. Like, I can't even still believe that they pulled that shit off, but they did. Got to roll with it. And then the Eagles beat up on another shit team. And I say shit team. The Bengals aren't the Bengals anymore. They're just not. And next week, guess what? The Eagles get the Jaguars. That'll be fun, right? That'll be loads of fun. But I'm telling you, man, it's a tough time to be a Cowboys fan, because you look at the team from the surface and it looks like there's hope on the roster, but not enough. They just don't have the tools right now to put it together. Income Atlanta. And I say income, we're going there, right? Oh, but the Cowboys on the road are better. Well, I watched them shits last night and it wasn't the different result. I just think that, the Cowboys have a tendency to hold on for dear life. And, my brother texted me today. He's like, maybe they should play with, like, they're down 21 to start the game. Right? Because my recipe for the Cowboys is you gotta get up on somebody, which they did. They got up on the Niners. I'm not saying, they were up big, but they were up. And that's the recipe. That is the recipe. I'll check the comments right now. Maybe trying too hard to prove his worth. Subpart. Yeah, you know what? That's coming from Sam. He thinks that maybe Dak Prescott trying a little too hard to be Superman right now. And maybe that's not the thing. And then Aaron Luna coming in. Steelers a liability. It's every week with that guy. And it is, bro. It's sometimes you get these little glimmers of like, oh, you know what? That wasn't terrible. But it doesn't help. It doesn't help that the Cowboys are drawing these massive defensive line opponents, right? It's never going to help your cause, right? And Atlanta's got a hell of a defense too. Guys like Bates are going to be waiting for Dak Prescott to throw a bad ball. And, I'll get more into the Falcons-Cowboys game on the Jersey Boys podcast tomorrow, when we break the game down. And that's another conversation. Me, Keith, and Brett were just, not so much Brett, he was on stage. But me and Keith were going back and forth. Like, this game, it's hard to break it into pinpoint of what was wrong. But at the end of the day, I understand what the stat line read for Dak with all those, touchdowns and yards at the end of the game. But still, this one I put on Dak, because you can't give the 49ers the short fields. You can't give them 3 and outs. You can't do all that. When your defense is already struggling and down all your biggest pieces, you can't just keep putting them on the field. Even teams like the Niners, who are hampered, of course, on that Percival or whatever the fuck his name is, he was going to have himself a game, right? They're Eddie Guerrero's son, whatever, their backup running back for Mason. He had himself a night. So the defense is obviously not the strong suit right now because of all the injuries. So you got to put points on the board. And if you don't put points on the board, sustain a long drive. Get these guys some wind. You don't have it. That's it. That is it. So the Dallas Cowboys are 3-4. Around the NFL, like I said, I mentioned the Commanders before. Unbelievable way to end that one. Former Cowboy. Shout out to Noah Brown, who caught the deflection. Shout out to the individual who decided to talk shit to the fans instead of cover the play. Yeah, did he get back for the play? Sure, but that's a bad look. That's a bad look. But other things that really pop off the top, I'm not even looking. I just the Eagles, like I said, they dominated the Bengals, so them in Washington sitting pretty. The Giants play tonight. I don't foresee the Giants getting that win, but any given Monday, I guess. We'll see. But Dallas is sitting there now in third place, firmly entrenched in third place. If the Giants win, I know they got the win over them already, whatever. But look at the teams that the Cowboys have beaten right now. You know, they beat the Giants, they beat the Steelers, right? These are teams that are just like the Steelers, and that was with Justin Fields, right? Um, I don't know, man. The Browns, who are not the Browns, by the way, shout out to Jameis Winston. My man went nuts yesterday, absolutely nuts yesterday in a big, big, big time win for the Browns. Over 300 yards passing. The guy, he looked apart, and he looked like this was the missing piece that the Browns needed to get going. I mean, these guys traded off Amari Cooper, and then, of course, you knew the next guy coming up. Next guy up, I had my finger on the add button, add the player, right? Was it Gibson? No, I forget his name off the top of my head, but they had a guy who just went just nuts, right? And you figured, okay, we'll see what happens now. They do have a defense that can keep him in games, and if you let Jameis cook, he's gonna do good things. He's also gonna throw some interceptions. We all know this already. We know who Jameis Winston is. So if anybody's going in there saying, "Well, here's MVP Jameis Winston," you know, he's gonna do all right. Like, we all know who he is. He's a journeyman. He's a former starter in the league. He's a former backup in the league, and now he's a starter again. So let's see how it plays out. I'm rooting for him. I really think that, I think Cleveland has themselves a decent team. They just weren't led by the right guy. Deshaun Watson is, again, hurt last week, out for the year. Is going to be some time before he even gets to rehab and stuff. And that sucks for him as the NFL player. But again, say what you will about the person that is Deshaun Watson, guilty, not guilty, whatever. He just doesn't have that. Nobody's looking at Deshaun Watson saying, "Oh man," like they're all like, well, he'll get back eventually, but if you're talking shit, I mean, that's another ball game, and you're a garbage human being if you're talking shit about an injury. Hey, breaking news: the Kansas City Chiefs are 7-0. Like anybody fucking didn't see that shit coming. They're making it work. DeAndre Hopkins over there looks good in Kansas City red, and we shall see how that plays out. I don't know who's going to be the team to knock them off right now. They just find ways to win. And I'm pretty sure Isaiah Pacheco is coming back next week, if I'm not mistaken. If not, the week after that. So, by the way, like, trade deadline looming, but you're about to pick up a very hard-nosed runner who, with Kareem Hunt, could be a massive, massive 1-2 punch in Kansas City. And that's not what you want to see when they're already 7-0. I'm pretty sure they clinched a playoff spot at this point already. But yeah, so that's the Chiefs. The Lions, shit, man. The Lions, again, just putting up points. And Jared Goff's stat line was alarming. I was like, did he even throw? Right? Like, I think he had like 100 yards. And I'm like, he scored 52 fucking points. They didn't need a quarterback to score all those points. That's a telltale sign that a team is very, very good at what they do. The Lions are, to me, right now, outside of the fact that Kansas City's 7-0, the Lions, I think, are the best overall team in football right now. The Vikings were exposed already. The Packers are still winning games despite injuries and shit, so they're in it. That NFC North, man, is going to be a lot of fun from the outside. But if you're a fan of any of those teams, you got yourself, it's tough sledding ahead. So that's another thing where the Cowboys are like, if you thought you're going to make the playoffs as a wild card, you're sadly mistaken. The whole entire NFC North is getting in. So you better get your shit together and win that division. Will it happen? Probably not. But again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be like that guy, but I'm just saying, look around the NFC East. There's two teams right now that are playing all world. We are not one of them, that, truth be told. But yeah, so Aaron coming in saying, I know it wasn't much, but what did you think about Dalvin Cook taking some snaps? Listen, it's fresh legs in week 8. Yeah, I like it. I like it. And I think once I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but like, get him on turf, and I guarantee he's a better player. You're watching him in San Francisco. It's grass. Guys are typically a little slower on grass, except if you're Deebo Samuel or George Kittle. But I would say that his better games are ahead of him. They inserted him yesterday. I think if they're going to carry the 3-back system going forward, if Rico is back next week, which you would assume he is, based off the flu or a fever or whatever, Deuce Vaughn gets to kick again, and now you have 3 backs. Stephen Jones said that before the game to one of the reporters on 105.3 The Fan. He said that they were going to carry 3 running backs regardless, and then see what's what. I think the Cowboys are also in a predicament here where they're in that we don't want to be wrong thing. And that happens a lot with Jerry Jones. He doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to see any of his decisions go piss poor, like just south. And I think, and I'm gonna look right behind me. You can't really see it, and I don't want to like mess with the camera, but that's Ezekiel Elliott fathead on my wall, right in my home studio. That's Ezekiel. I love Zeke, but I think, and he scored last night, which I was very happy about, and he looked actually pretty good. You know, he looked good. So I'm not saying it could be a nice 3-headed changeup, I guess. But I do like Dalvin. He's got the freshest legs. We'll see. Turbo Duran coming in. Hey, dude, it's all about LA. Go Dodgers. We are the best city, not New York. That's English. But we are the best city, not New York. Okay, cool. That's great. I mean, nah, you're not, but that's okay. Listen, Dodgers, I could segue into that. Dodgers right now are up 2-0 on my beloved New York Yankees. And what I could say about the first two games is this could easily be 2-0 Yankees. Easily. And if you watch the games, you know that there were a hit or two away from making that happen. Friday night was a joke, right? And then Saturday night was even worse because you got them loaded. The radios and then the local stations are going to be talking about Aaron Judge, and that's the truth. If Aaron Judge is half the player that he was in the regular season, this series is different already. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. Like, Aaron Judge has all world regular season, then he gets to the postseason and he just becomes the shell of himself. And you saw it in the one at bat where it was a 2-0 count. You know what's coming next. You got to sit fastball there. You have to sit fastball, and you know it's coming. They don't want to fall back 3-0 because then you can green light, and you know there's a fastball coming. There's nowhere to put you either, right? Technically. He's sitting there with a blumber on his shoulders, and he just watches strike one get past, and then he swings at 2 bad breaking balls to strike out. Aaron Judge is lost at the plate right now. Do I think he can turn it around? If he's the best hitter in baseball, which I think he is still, him, Ohtani, 1A, right? I think that he can turn it around. If the Yankees want anything to do with this series, he has to turn it around. Yeah, could have, should have, would have. He hears it all the time. Yeah, of course. Listen, I'm not going to take anything away from the Dodgers. They won 2 games in the World Series. You cannot take that away from them. You find ways to win. And even when their bullpen gets lit up a little bit or makes it shaky and rocky, they find a way to win. And that's why the Dodgers are in a position right now where they got to win 2 of the next 6 games, right? I'm sorry, 5 games. And it's a good spot to be in. The only advantage right now is that we're coming back to New York. And I think ultimately, tonight, there's no, it's Clark Schmidt and Walker Buehler, I believe, is on the hill for the Dodgers. I think you can get to him. I think you can get game 3, right? I think you can. And of course, yeah, Turbo coming back in saying, he's not worried about the Yankees. He's not worried about Judge. He's worried about Stan. Stan's locked in, man. Stan, I've never seen this out of Stan. Stan used to be the liability. Stan used to be the guy, chasing the balls outside, striking out left and right. But Stanton is absolutely locked in. It feels like it's either home run or bust when it comes to Stanton. But I will say that, tonight they should be able to get. I think tonight they do get. Tomorrow, they're calling it a bullpen game. They're saying that Garrett Cole was not going to go in game 4. Can they win a bullpen game? Maybe, right? I think the goal right now is to, get 2 out of 3 in New York. Yeah, do you want to win all 3 in New York and make it, force them to win 2 at home back to back? Yeah, you clearly, right? We've all seen how this plays out. 96 was my first World Series I got to see with my 2 eyes, right? Down 2-0 to the Atlanta Braves. Different team. The Yankees were stacked with clutch players. Bernie Williams, guys like that, like Paul O'Neill, guys that really, really, really wanted this shit. And you could see it in a little bit. You could see it in a little bit of the guys that are on the team right now, that dog in them. Juan Soto, look, I know it's one of 3 ways now. Now there's rumors that saying the Dodgers could be involved. Sort of fucking Christ. If he goes to the Dodgers, it's like, okay, great. Where's the salary cap when you need it? I say that as a Yankee fan, as if we haven't bought half the stars in the league. I get it. But the Dodgers and Magic Johnson, that whole ownership group's like, nah, well, you're going to have to wait because we're going to bid too. So it's either going to be returning with the Yankees for this monster deal, returning with a higher price with the Mets, or maybe the Dodgers do get involved. I don't know. But Soto is the kind of guy that can really change the culture of the team. And I think that's the biggest part of his game. Like, yeah, has he hit massive home runs, massive hits throughout the course of the season and into the postseason? Yes. But I think it's the demeanor. He's a little animated. He's a little, like doing the whole shaking, punching himself in the fucking side, all this shit. I get it. Staring down guys after walks, staring down guys after strikeout. He's just a very animated individual. But I will say, that's what you need. You need that dog. You need that guy that's going to step up and just deliver for you in the big spot. And when he doesn't deliver for you, he's going to make it known that he didn't deliver, meaning he's not going to throw a bitch fit. He's not going to do anything like that, but he'll make it known that he needs to, like, if you watch him in his at-bats, there's a couple at-bats where he's fouling them off, and you could tell he's like, do that again. I dare you to do that again. And sometimes he's dared him. Sometimes they've taken him up on the dare, and he sent it into the stands, right? So he's just an all-world baseball player. He's one of the best in baseball right now. So for the Yankees to have guys like Stanton, Judge, and Soto on the same lineup, 2, 3, 4, man, I don't know what else to do. I mean, you should be producing out of those. Yeah, and they are at 2 of them, right? If Judge gets going, the Yankees are unbeatable. They are. Just think about it like this. The Saturday night game where you're thinking like, Yankees are, fucking, Carlos Rodon is giving up home runs and, oh, no, it's no good. It's a wash. We're getting blown out. They scored 4 runs, right? So it's not like we're sitting there like, oh, man, if only, no, it's not if only. They didn't do anything. They scored 4 runs. These solo shots are nothing. They're nothing burgers in the World Series. You hit a grand slam like Freddie Freeman did the other night, then that's something. But when you hit a solo shot, a couple of them, yeah, your pitcher's rocked, but the game ain't over. You saw it in the 9th. They almost came back and won. So do that. Just keep the Dodgers 4 and below, 5 and below, and score some fucking runs. Like that. That's it. How Boone presents the lineup at home tonight, I don't know. The 1 through 4 can't be switched, can't be touched. It's Glaber, it's Judge, it's Soto, it's fucking. I mean, I'm sorry, it's Glaber, it's Soto, it's Judge, it's Stanton. Those are your 4. What do you do in the back end? I don't know. I would say maybe move Volpe up to 5, start up the whole thing again, get somebody on base. Austin Wells has been lost. They have a lot of talent, but they're just not delivering in the big spot. And, Wells went yard once. Great. Volpe swinging at balls that just, landed in the Bronx at this point. They're just not being a patient baseball team right now. And usually they will work a walk or they'll work a count at the very least. But they got too aggressive in the 9th, and that's how that all kind of played out. So, look, Yankees got to have it. They got to have it tonight. Obviously, you go down 3-0, it's pretty much a wrap. So you got to have it in a must-win spot. Can the New York Yankees deliver offensively? The pitching, I'm not going to beat the drum that everybody's been beating for the last couple of days with I can't believe, Nestor Cortez. Well, it's over now. I mean, what are you going to say? But Aaron Boone needs to make a couple better decisions throughout the course of the playoffs with the Royals and then the Indians, Guardians, whatever. He was making good decisions. He was bringing in the right guys, pulling all the right strings, pressing all the right buttons. Now it's like, okay, now you're overcompensating because now you're not, and you're not bringing in the guys that need to be in at the right times at all. Clay Holmes, I understand in game 2 he looked okay, but like that dude is a walking disaster now again. Tim Hill's your guy. He's your stop guy. He's your Jeff Nelson of the 96 Yankees, right? He's that guy. Graham Lloyd, whatever, just a lot shorter. That's the recipe now. Now you have guys even lighter pitch well, right? It was a Mark Leiter Jr. And then you guys, there's going to be guys that just don't see any time. I don't know. Are we ever going to see Stroman out of the bullpen? I don't think so. Will we ever see Nestor again this series? Don't know. But you gotta press the right buttons tonight, Aaron. You gotta press the right buttons tonight. I'm talking about Judge and I'm talking about Boone. Both of these guys got to deliver for the Yankees' dream season that nobody really expected. I didn't expect it. Going into the season, I knew who we had, and I knew that they were going to win some ball games, and I know they were probably going to win that division, but I didn't look at them as a World Series contender. But here we are. Here we are. It's now down 2-0. It's time. It's time to deliver. The Yankees cannot sit back and wait for this shit to happen for them again. They got to deliver. They got to be aggressive. Got to get up on them early and leave it up to pen. So we'll see. But that's going to do it. I'm tired. I got a lot to do today, but I hope everybody's enjoying their week already. I know it's a Monday. If you're a Cowboy fan, you're not. If you're a Yankee fan, you're nervous. You're also not. You're on kind of pins and needles, like, oh, I don't know how to feel right now. Ultimately, my gut says that the Yankees will get this one tonight. You know, the concrete jungle is going to be loud if you can afford it. The prices out there are fucking ridiculous. I couldn't believe, like, my buddy paid a hefty price for me and him to go to game 1 of the ALCS. Now that same seat is like 5 times the price. Like, it's one thing if it's the Super Bowl. If the Cowboys ever get back to the Super Bowl and I'm in a position to spend a couple grand to see them back in the Super Bowl, then I might go. It's one game, one experience, last a lifetime, win or lose, obviously. But for the Yankees, it's difficult because now every game are Super Bowl prices, and now you technically can't see them win a World Series with down 2-0. So, like, yeah, you want to go for the feeling and the experience, great. But you're not going to see them win a World Championship in New York this year. You won't. Has to be done out there. So, will it? I would love to. Let's go to Hollywood and make a movie. They can make a movie out of this. We don't know. They got to get tonight. One game at a time, one bat at a time, one pitcher at a time. Boomer says it best on the fan. But, like, we'll see if it happens. So listen, if you're watching this program on Twitter, please, one, give a little retweet. You know, show the world that I don't suck at what I do. If you're on YouTube, please like the video, share the video, do everything that you need to do. Subscribe to the My Fandom YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that with a lot of original content. If you're a wrestling fan, there's a lot of that. Which, again, big news tomorrow. For me, I already kind of leaked it on my Facebook, but we got a massive guest on the Wrestling Hour, one of the biggest, influential characters and personalities in the history of professional wrestling, joined our show. So that's tomorrow on the first on ad-free shows for a day, and then it'll come on over to our YouTube as well. But listen, if you've rocked with me this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys checking out My Fandom Cast. There's more content coming. There's a lot of things in the works. But yeah, follow me on all the socials. I'm at the same handle on Instagram as well, at Dave Sturchio. That's my professional account. I do have a personal one that I just, I have to select who the world sucks. What are you going to do? All it needs to happen is me to post a picture of one of my kids and somebody says, wow, what an ugly kid. I'll rip your throat out. Like, I will find you and burn your house down. That's just the way it's going to be. So that's why I can't accept everybody. All my friends on Facebook and friends on Instagram, my personal account is people that I know. I barely post anything on Twitter when it comes to my kids because Twitter's a shitty place. A lot of negativity. And yeah, I was part of it yesterday. Part of all the negativity. But that'll do it. I hope everybody has a great week. Go Yankees. Thank you guys for watching so much. You guys mean the world to me that you even checking me out for a half a second. If you like the video on Facebook, thank you so much. That helps push it as well. But yeah, that'll do it. For Dave Sturchio, this has been another episode of My Fandom Cast right here, brought to you by the My Fandom app. And we'll see you guys next time. Again, be sure to check out the Jersey Boys podcast tomorrow, the Wrestling Hour on Wednesday. Big week coming up. We'll see you guys then. Thanks, everybody.